Joining me this morning, Michael Bartone. And Michael, how you been doing?
Good, Pat. Good morning. Got a little bit of rest after this weekend. That's for sure.
This was the first time you ever got involved with this, right?
Well, yeah, years ago when I was doing the 4th of July festivals and Cabrini Church Festival and Oktoberfest and all those other events, when D-Day originally started in 1998, I believe it was, Doug Lewis had come to me and he said, hey, you're in charge of all these events. You need to get involved with D-Day. And I remember for a couple years there, when it first started out, Doug Lewis and myself and a couple other volunteers, we were actually parking cars at Township Park. There was no, 6 parking lots around town shuttling people in with school buses.
Not in those days, yeah.
You're talking 200-300 reenactors. And when I went into Biscotti's restaurant one day, and Lori said, you want to help out with D-Day? I said, yeah, sure, why not? And she goes, when's the last time you've been there or helped out? And I said, about 9 years. She goes, well, then you're in store for something big.
Yeah, because Doug was city manager here back in the
2000 era.
2000 era. 2000, I want to say 2, 3, 4
Yeah,
maybe.
he was here for a couple years.
Yeah, and so yeah, you go back a ways with that, but probably nothing like what you experienced this week.
No, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
It was amazing. I can't believe how big it has grew to. It's all these people that come in and the reenactors themselves, and how there's so many local people who volunteer, and it's great. But like with Lori McLaughlin and Bill Wiley and Jen Pelagi, kind of being the upper management, if you were the upper, the people who really run things, they make it run so smooth.
What did, being the first time really basically involved in this year, what did you have to do?
When I asked Lori, well, what is it that you need me to do? She says, well, we'll come to a couple of the meetings and we'll find something for you to do.
Sure.
I actually ended up being Bill Wiley's personal assistant, I think is what my title was. I'm not real sure if it was a title, but that's what I deemed my title, as his personal assistant. And Bill Wiley's in charge of all the operations of it, from logistics, getting all of the buses together and the parking lot set up, and making sure the thing runs without a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And he does one heck of a job. And of course, everybody has their role. Lori has a role, but I'm more familiar with Bill's role because I was stuck to him like glue.
Yeah.
And it was.
Where were you based at? Right there at the bluff on the.
Yeah, I mean, basically the operations tent is what they call it, and you just go there, and Bill would say, all right, grab a Kubota or a golf cart and let's go, follow me. And we would away we would go, getting things done.
Okay. In one word, what would you call this weekend?
Awesome.
Awesome?
Simply awesome.
Yeah.
Yes,
we
absolutely.
went by there, Michelle and I, several times, just to check up on the perimeter of things and everything. I've been to so many of them. I didn't want to get involved in the middle of it. So we watched it from the outside looking in, as we did last year. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was like, this is like Woodstock. I couldn't believe all the people that were there.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I noticed is, when I told you that before, we were parking cars at Township Park.
Mm-hmm.
And now to see that, one of my jobs that Bill Wiley had put me in charge of was making sure all the parking lots around town are going the way they're supposed to go.
Were they utilized, Mike?
They were utilized. Gateway and 7. We call it Kmart. One thing we found that when we say Kmart, a lot of the people that are from out of town, they're looking for Kmart. There is no more Kmart out there, so we resort to it as the Burger King lot or the Route 7 and 90 lot. Because when you tell people, no, there's parking out at Kmart, we're used to Kmart.
Right, there's not
here.
even any signs out there.
No. And that parking lot filled up really quick.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So these buses were actually used like when we had the concert, the Beach Bash, I don't know if you remember that, back in '96. We had buses. I don't think one bus was ever used to bring people in. It wasn't that big of an
I
event.
can tell you, I think, and and that's the other thing. I mean, we could talk for hours here about every aspect of D-Day, but one thing that I noticed, one of the things that Bill Wiley and I had done first thing in the morning on Saturday, going out to the city bus garage and putting the donation buckets on the buses. So people that would get on, if they enjoyed the show, they would just put donations in.
With all of it going back to D-Day fund.
Right, yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure we almost utilized every single bus the schools have. I think there was like maybe 3 or 4 that I did not put anything on, but everything else I did.
No kidding.
And it was amazing because watching them in action. When you're out at Kmart and you see them come, and I think out at Kmart parking lot there was 4 or 5 buses running constantly, a loop. CW parking lot had 4, and the high school I think had 3, and then there was parking at Day Street, the old deck vending building, and the dock company property there in front of it. Just so many parking areas, and
Wow.
Just going around and watching those buses in action. At one time, I think it was around noon, when the majority of the people were starting to really come in, there was a line from the actual bus stop at the old Kmart, right in front of the old Kmart doors, all the way out almost to the end of the parking lot on 7, and it turned the corner and was heading towards Giant Eagle, and it was about a 45-minute wait.
For people to get on a bus.
Yeah, because I think what was happening was when the buses were getting down to the park area, there was so much traffic and so much pedestrian traffic, they were having a difficult. They weren't getting out as quick to the stop, and called Bill, said, Bill, there's a 45-minute wait out here, and he put a plan in action, and we followed that. We started diverting parking to the high school and CW to try to alleviate some of that, and it did. It worked. So the man had an answer for everything, which was great.
I can't even imagine being, but see, he was in management at First Energy, CEI, so he's been in these situations where you have a lot of chaos and knows how to handle that stuff.
And to the average person that comes down and looks at the event and they say, what a wonderful event, everything seemed to run so smooth. When you look behind the scenes, what it took for everybody involved, the volunteers and everybody that's in charge,
Right.
It's amazing how hard they work behind the scenes to make sure that it goes off without a flaw.
I was talking about that this morning. Nobody knows unless you're involved in that. As an outsider, I have no clue. And just you telling me right now what you had to do to make this thing happen successfully, it's amazing. How much planning and
Yeah, and when you go through, as I was driving around town and checking on those parking lots, I would leave Kmart, go out to CW, and seeing how there was just a line of cars. It reminds me of that movie, If You Build It, They Will Come. Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And in the one part of the movie where there's just a constant line of cars coming, that's what it looked like. It was amazing. There was a gentleman down there. One of the reenactors had a drone. He took some awesome aerial footage, and I told him next year you need to get that drone up there in the air as the traffic's coming in, because I think that'd be an awesome sight to see all that traffic coming in. But as I did approach the lake and get closer to the lake, I did see the congestion that was happening, because a lot of the streets down there was no parking on the streets, or there was one parking on one side. What residents have their yards set up for parking, and just the pedestrian traffic. I think I sent you a picture of the crowd at Gate A. On Pearl Street.
And I said they were going in, they were actually coming out.
They were leaving, yeah. And they were making announcements that it's going to take some time to get back to the parking lots. Take your time, enjoy, because as we were setting up, and on Thursday night when pretty much everything was set up, I looked around and I said, this is like Cedar Point or Disneyland. There's so much to do. How can you do it all in one day for everybody that just comes on Saturday?
What did you do, Mike? Now, these buses obviously had to take these people back once the thing was over. That had to be a mess.
It actually, you would think it would be, but actually, because the frequency of how many times the buses actually come out, they don't come back all at once. So you don't have a mass exodus, like you do, say, with the 4th of July fireworks. The fireworks are done, everybody gets in their car and they leave.
Right.
Where here, everything's kind of, timed out where, okay, 3 buses came, they dropped off about 200 people. Time they load up their car and everything, and you're right there on 90 and 7, so it's just a right turn, bam, you're gone. There was very little traffic congestion out there. Same thing with pretty much all the other parking lots. It's just how the timing of the buses. If all the buses came all at once, they would be gridlocked, but it wasn't too bad getting. I think it was worse coming in than getting out, to be honest with you.
It was funny because I think it was Saturday. We went. John Arcaro.
Yeah, he took some great photos too.
He does hot dog. He sells hot dogs and has parking. His son, John Michael, has parking there, and it's tradition. We always go to John's house for a hot dog, and all that money he makes there, he gives back to the D-Day fund. And so on the way over there, we got on Lake Road, and there was a bus in front of us stopped, and it had this blinkers on, not the flashers or anything, but the blinking lights on. And I go, I don't know whether I'm allowed to pass this thing or what. Well, Michelle goes, I think you're allowed to pass it. It's one way, blah, blah, blah. So I went around it. Good thing I did. There was 4 more buses in front of it unloading people. It was amazing.
It is.
I go, I can't believe all these people.
It is. And, as I was out there traveling around, I ended up stuck behind a coach bus coming into town, Lakefront Lines, and I was amazed. I was like, now they're bringing in charter buses? So, of course I got on the radio, and the other thing is Jack Sabo, who handles the communications and equipping everybody with 2-way radios. I mean, very good radios, not your, ones you pick up at Walmart or Kmart. I mean, we're talking very good radios. I got on the radio with Bill. I says, I got a charter bus coming in, just be on the lookout, because I don't know if there was any provisions made for charter buses, where they're to be dropped off, where they're to park. Of course, Bill handled that. On my way back out to Kmart, I passed 3 more Coach Canada buses coming in.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. So, I mean, this event's getting quite large, where now they're starting to,
I'm wondering if it's gotten, as I mentioned earlier, if it's gotten to the point where this is it. You can't really do much more.
I look forward to the next meeting, the wrap-up meeting, and getting more involved next year. Because, as I was riding around, I was jotting, and that's one thing Lori told me to do, have a notebook and write things down that you see that we can address for next year. And I think that's how this has become more streamlined, because they take notes on how to make things better for the next year, and that's what they've done. And they just do a super job. And so, those are some of the things that I see is, how we can improve with things around town. Everybody's at the park, but no one really sees what's going on outside the park on the streets. And the police department does a fabulous job. Public Works department. I mean, there's just so many partners involved with this. It's amazing how the town comes together and works really well together.
How would you, I mean, we're always begging for more people to come to Connie and stuff. How could you cut it back?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, to find out, like, well, how can this get any bigger? How can we accommodate more people? When you look at the pictures of all the people on the bluffs, where can you put them? You can't turn people away. You can't say, well, can't come because have too many people. I mean, this thing ultimately, I see potential of it growing to, say, 100,000 people, and we just have to prepare for it somehow, some way. You have to prepare for it. You can't just can't just cut it off. Maybe there's going to have to be 2 battles. I don't know. I mean, that's something that Lori,
it used to be 2 battles.
And they have all kinds of other things going on Friday. But as far as the main invasion, I think you can only get those planes in on 1 shot, and that's on Saturday. I think. I don't know. I mean,
well, there's the fuel costs are tremendously high. I know they did come in on Friday because they were soaring over the house, and there might have been a little battle that day, or they were practicing. I'm not sure.
Right.
But yeah. I went out in the backyard and they were flying right over the house,
And I was out at Gateway Plaza there, and on the radio you could hear them announce, planes are inbound in 5 minutes, and they come, I believe, from the Jefferson Airport. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure.
And watching them come from the south, I don't think anybody's ever seen this. When they came from the south, they came in a formation, and then as you watched them pass overhead, they split up over, it looked like the downtown area, and then they all started coming in their different areas. But so watching them come in from the south was pretty amazing, because that's the only chance I got to see the planes.
Right.
Was out when they came flying into town. But
without no doubt, the event like this brings in a lot of people to the community for tourism and that sort of stuff. I'm sure the restaurant, I know we had a pizza Friday night, I think it was, and we called early because we knew people were going to be buying pizzas and getting dinners and that sort of stuff. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I did see in the morning when I would go down to the park, Angela's Cafe on Lake Road there had a tent set up, and it was packed.
Really?
Reenactors, you could see all their Army vehicles parked outside. I mean, Angela's Cafe, and then in the evenings, Castaways was packed there on the corner of Lake Road and Broad Street. They had a tent out front. It was packed. And then Friday night, of course, Pizzi's has a big party for the German reenactors. And a friend of mine lives by there, and at about 1:30 in the morning said, "Wow, this party's still going on."
Really?
And so I did take a ride by there, and wow, was it really going?
Yeah.
And it was packed. The whole parking lot, they had a tent set up in there, and it was packed. And so they go around to some of the establishments. I know Saturday morning, I was on my way out to set up the Kmart parking lot, and going by McDonald's. I've never seen McDonald's so packed.
No kidding.
And the drive-through, I mean, there was a line all the way around the building coming out onto the road for the drive-through. It was an amazing sight. So I think this does this is a huge economic boost for the city. Just too bad we couldn't have more events like this. I know between the 4th of July festival and D-Day, I mean, those are probably the community's two biggest events. I know we got another event coming up, the Rib Fest, which is a pretty good event. I look forward to
September 11th, 12th, and 13th. Mike, you and I have talked over the years many times that this is a perfect setting for a mini Geneva on the Lake event, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months out of the year, where we could actually have maybe some kind of carnival atmosphere. It seems like this town, and I remember, was it Hansley? City Manager Hansley said this is prime area for something like that.
I'll tell you,
that was years ago.
And a couple weeks ago, when I did see in the paper, and it was on your show, about the development of Lakeview Park.
Yes.
I think that possibly could be a good idea. I mean, a lot of people have mixed feelings about that, but we have some potential down there. What they plan on developing it to, who knows? I mean, but the development on the lakefront is key, I think, to Conneaut's success, and taking into account that I don't really think this D-Day reenactment's going to go anywhere. I think it's just going to get bigger, and it's almost like we have to plan for D-Day. I really feel like we need to plan for more events on the lakefront, D-Day, 4th of July, and what have you, whatever other events that the Port Authority might decide to bring out there. I did find out this week, this will be breaking news on your show, that they do have plans to open up the sandbar sometime this week.
Oh?
Yes, they do have plans to open up the sandbar sometime this week. So I manage the Conneaut Port Authority Facebook page, and one of the members, Joe Raisin, had sent me a message to get on Facebook that to be patient, and we respect your cooperation. And
it was closed because of high water.
It was,
Yeah.
and it's starting to go down now. They're doing some work down there. They wanted to do some cleanup after D-Day, and he said sometime this week, hopefully they will get that open. So.
Well, Joey had told me several weeks ago that they were hoping, because they had a canceled Dock Fest because of lack of participation from a lot of people that didn't go there, and the weather and everything else that was going against it. He wanted to have something at the sandbar as a kind of a little celebration party there. But that kind of was put on probably the back burner because of this situation.
Right.
So I don't know whether they can even get that in this year or not.
And of course, I've heard people complaining about the horse issue down there.
Yeah.
Which
Grant.
I'm sure, which I'm sure they're going to address. But as far as the sandbar, it looks like it will be open sometime this week.
Okay, great. Good news there regarding the sandbar, which has been closed for quite some time now because of high water conditions that struck down there.
And speaking of the Port Authority, I mean, they were another great partner along with the city and everybody else.
Township Park.
Yeah, Township Park, great partner. Port Authority, Police Department, Public Works. I mean, you name it. It almost seems like every organization, every function, every faction of the city is involved in this, and just the partnership that the D-Day Committee has with all of those. Even the Port Authority having to close down Naylor Boulevard as an FAA regulation, as a no-fly zone or high security area. I mean, they had Naylor Boulevard blocked off from pretty much public dock all the way down to where you come up Naylor Boulevard, that whole area. And of course, Jack Vignall was on it down there as the head of security for the Port Authority.
Yeah.
And so he was great. The Port Authority security. It was awesome to see ex-police chief John Arcaro, who is now a councilman now, or council at large. He was the head of security at the park.
Yeah, he was mentioned at council last night. I didn't know that.
He comes up with his volunteers to do that. Conneaut Fire and Rescue, they were down there. University Hospitals had a mobile hospital set up. I mean, it is like a little town. You have a hospital, you have police, you have security, you have food, and the food, it was like a fair down there too.
Yeah.
With the food. I mean, again, we could talk for hours about everything that was down there, all the aspects of it.
What was the thing you were going to tell me? You said that happened to you. Are you allowed to say that on the air?
I don't remember what.
I don't know. When you come in, wait till I tell you what happened to me.
Oh, I mean, just as far as being, thinking about going in as a volunteer, and then all of a sudden, being directed to, okay, you're going to be in charge of this. Make sure the parking lots are done. I mean, going around with Bill Wiley and showing all the portable restroom. They ordered, I think, 50 or 60 portable restrooms, but they distribute them all over. I mean, each parking lot gets one. And all the stops at the shuttles, and all the ones in the park, and the Lakeview Park. And that's another thing. Lakeview Park turns into, they had over 300 Boy Scouts, and you couldn't fit another tent in that softball field down there.
Was that who was there?
That was Boy Scouts of America.
Who was in the Lakeview Park where the...
That was reenactors that had RVs, some of their big...
they never did that before, I don't remember.
That's how big this thing is getting. I mean, and then if you rode by Lakeshore Primary School, that was just reenactor parking only.
Right.
That wasn't spectator parking. That was reenactor parking. And when you have 1,500 reenactors, you got to find somewhere to put them all.
Yeah.
And so parking here, parking there, and providing shuttles for them. Actually, Lakeview Park was vendor parking and overflow reenactor parking, and of course the Boy Scouts of America were down there. 300 of them.
Unbelievable. It was really something. Bob Lebzelder did an interview with, or actually did some video of veterans that reminisced and talked to him about that. Can we run that, Andy? These are veterans that Bob talked to at the event itself this past weekend.
It might have been the largest contingent of World War II veterans in one place in recent times. Conneaut D-Day weekend was a special place for them. France's Consul General, Vincent Floriani, gave the French Medal of Honor to a half-dozen veterans from the region. We talked to some of those honorees and some other veterans of that war, which ended 70 years ago.
I'm honored. I've been anticipating this for years. But it started with Senator Spencer of Pennsylvania, working on for us to get this French Medal of Honor. And then I don't know what happened. Then he got voted out of office and whatnot, and so that went down the drain. Then Fred Pearson was instigator of most of it, and we got it reorganized because we, as a battalion, we used to have a reunion every year. We did for what 60, I think 61 years, and I had the last reunion in Cleveland. Okay, let's put it this way. And the anti-aircraft battalion is set up with 8 gun sections for each battery, okay? And each gun section had a machine gunner and a 40 millimeter gun. That's how it's composed. But four of the guns, there was 8 gun sections in the battery. But 4 of the gun sections had quad 50 machine guns on the half track. But that was issued after we got to the war, and the rest of us still had the old machine gun, the water-cooled machine gun. The 2 people operated it, me and Ellison. And one pumped the water into the gun, and the other guy fired. And against an aircraft battalion, we all used some ground troops, but not that much. Mainly aircraft. That was my job. Well, what qualified me for the French medal was a Normandy +6. I served, went out to the Brittany Peninsula and cleared the Germans out of the Brittany Peninsula, and I had nothing to do with it. Don't get me wrong. We had San Miguel, where you got 20,000 soldiers to surrender. Okay, but yes, yeah, okay, and well, part of the because we was on the river there, they wanted to surrender anyway. So they added on the firepower. They took the 8 half track from each battery, so that made 32, and they set up fire on the line like 750 rounds a minute, 4 machine guns, and then you multiply that by 28, 30 machine guns and half track. So we put up a big racket, and that just made me think we had a whole army out there, but we didn't. So that was part of the story.
Have you seen the D-Day reenactment here?
Huh?
Have you seen the D-Day reenactment here?
Yeah, I seen it last year. Yeah, I was here last year.
So was it impressive?
Oh yeah, no, it was a wonderful thing. Yes, I enjoyed it very much.
What about the whole experience?
Well, I did. It's a wonderful experience. I'm originally from West Virginia, okay, and I thought I was back home. That's the atmosphere. Yeah. The people were so kind and so great.
Well, I think it means a gratitude to France. I didn't expect it, but they treated me great. I got my award last year in France at Carentan. I'm kind of a halfway celebrity for a little town called Tintigny in France. Because during the war, I was in charge of wire communications for our battalion. I was tying some wire up on a pole, and I had to get down because it shelled the pole. So when I got back up again, I tied the wire off, and then I got looking around at the farmhouse, bombed out, and it was all around. See a car there, I picked this car up, and there was a soldier, had been a French soldier, he was a prisoner of war in Germany, and this is to his mother. And so I said, well, I can't give it to them back, but I don't know where they are, don't know if they're dead or what. So I put it in my pack and carry it with me. Then, 4 years ago, the 83rd had their reunion at West Point, and I heard the mayor of St. Denis was going to be there. And I'm going to take that card and see if he'd like to see if he can find the people to carry it. So when I gave it to him, he stabbed to me in French, and I couldn't understand what he said. But his eyes just lit up. And a fellow was with me named Jean-Paul Pichot. He's become a good friend of mine. And he said he would like to know how you got the card. And I told my son, trouble going around, and I just thought it'd be a good souvenir we could take in the room. And I thought maybe I could get back to the people. And this John Paul says, I know them. This man died 8 years ago, but I know his wife and his son. The next year I couldn't afford to go. So another man from the 83rd represented me in giving the cards back. Then when I went over last year, then I met the rest of the family, and it's the only thing they have of grandpa. Wow. And so I'm kind of a semi-hero in today.
I'm very proud of it. Extremely proud. Most as proud as being with the other men up here that were in the battle. So we hope that everything will get better in the world. I predict that in 20 years there'll be another world war.
Tell me what you did in the war.
What?
Tell me what you did in the war.
I was a truck driver for the headquarters company, 386th Regiment. And I was on duty 24 hours, 7 days a week. I hauled gas, water, food, ammunition, and personnel.
I was over in Italy during World War II. And I was with the 34th Division in the artillery. Yes.
So were you in combat or?
Yes.
A lot?
Not too much.
But some. How old were you when you went in?
I was I was 21.
Okay.
I took basic training in Camp Cross, South Carolina.
Okay.
I was supposed to have 17 weeks. 13 weeks, they sent me home for 7 days, and next thing I was on a troop trip going over to Italy. 44.
Okay. Kind of the end of it. So what do you remember of your experiences in the war? I mean, if you had to kind of describe it in a couple of words.
Well, I was in the artillery and communications.
Okay.
Yeah, I got orders from headquarters, and I passed them down to the fire captains. I had to tell them where to drop it, where to aim for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you both were in the war at the same time, brothers?
Yeah. He was overseas, I wasn't.
Oh, all right. So where were you?
In Italy.
Started in Africa. And up in the old beach.
So you stayed in the United States? Was that because he was in Italy that you stayed here?
Yeah, I was afraid of war. Well, just kidding.
We had another brother in the Navy and another in
And so what was that?
we had 4 of those brothers in it. So.
Really? All at the same time?
We're the only 2 living.
Wow. Well, what did your mother think of that?
I never asked my mom.
No.
I think she accepted things like that.
See, we was always away from home anyway. We were in the CC camps all over the years. Ahead of that, Syrian concentration corps. Back in 1938, 36, 38, 37, 40, within that. My brothers and I, we were in that.
So then you joined the service after that?
No, that's before that. We went to service after that.
Right, that's what I meant, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Civilian Conservation Corps was kind of a military kind of...
Yeah.
Well, we had a military command.
Yeah, we had military command.
Forestry, agriculture, all of it in command.
Yeah.
FDR Roosevelt, started that.
Yeah, but
I think every person in this country ought to remember, know who he was and what SCC was. Because every bit of ground that they probably worked on was built by the CC.
yeah, forestry service. Yeah.
So what did you do in Italy during the war?
In the
I was a medic.
Oh, really?
He bandaged him up.
I was just this far from being one of these guys in the illustration down there with the red cross on his head. From this bit from being one of them.
Did you have a medical background before that?
I signed up when they asked me no questionnaire. I was a coal miner. Shooting dynamite and plaster and gunpowder. And I says, also took a first aid course. But I thought I was going to end up in a rifle company or ordnance or something. I think that first aid put me in the medical.
Because you took the first aid course.
I don't know for sure.
All right, back with Mike Bartone. That was a video that Bob Lebzeller took of veterans that actually remembered, had reminiscences about World War II and their active duty that they served our country.
And actually, Ann Wiley, she's one of the ones, you know, with Lori and Bill Wiley and Jen Pelagi, who coordinate a lot of this, and she actually, I think, is responsible for getting that whole veterans ceremony thing set up, and it was great working with Ann as well. Did a lot. I mean, they're all definitely committed to this event.
You said there were volunteers during the break. You said there were volunteers that actually fed these reenactors.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of volunteers down there that helped put this together, but the ladies that were down there and gentlemen that were down there, our headquarters obviously was on Pearl Street. Mike All's house lets us use his garage there on Pearl Street, and feeding all the volunteers lunches every single day. I'm sure they kept track of how many lunches they put out there. Must have served over 1,000 lunches a day. It was amazing, and they did a great job feeding all the volunteers, and I ate pretty good last week. That's for sure.
So you jumped in on that.
Great lunches, great lunches, and you know, again, I mean, it just goes.
Well,
to show.
what would they like serve you?
I mean, one day was hot dogs and sloppy joes, and they definitely did a good job on keeping everybody hydrated. You know, there was water, and they had coolers of lemonade, or like I think it was maybe Powerade. I'm pretty sure Lori had told me McDonald's had donated all of that, the McDonald's coolers and the drink mixes and the cups. And
no kidding.
One day it was pizza, and one day it was ham and turkey sandwiches, and it was good. I mean, it seems like they don't overlook any aspect. I mean, all the way down to feeding and hydrating the volunteers.
Sure. Couldn't ask for better weather.
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was perfect setting up for, except for Wednesday when we had that little bit of not even a storm, it's just a front came through, real windy, and that downpour felt, I stood in the rain because it felt so good.
Yeah. It was actually superb weather for this particular event. Sun shining, not too hot for the weekend, and there was no humidity, so it makes it a lot easier. I've been down there when the humidity was so bad, guys are passing out and everything else, but that really didn't happen this year. Hi, you're on the air.
Good morning, Pat. Mike, how are you guys doing this morning? Lonnie Hutchins.
Lonnie, and he was another trooper. He was a great volunteer down there too.
Well, thank you. Hey, you know what? That was nothing but an absolute joy. They give you a little quick story. Number one, you know the veterans tent were actually two of the medium-sized tents put together to make one large one. So we get this thing set up. It takes us 3.5 hours to set it up. I don't know Eric's last name. I don't remember it. But I'll tell you, this gentleman was very good. He knew what he was doing. So anyway, we get it all set up. It took us 3.5 hours. It took God 5 minutes to take it down. Anyway, we go back the next day. It's covered with rain. There's a Boy Scout troop there, and we asked them to sweep the water off the tent net so it could dry and stuff. And these kids worked like crazy. And we set this. I asked for help, and in 1 hour and 10 minutes, that tent was back in position and ready to go.
No kidding. So the winds.
The reenactors just come out of the wall.
The winds knocked it down, Lonnie?
Sir?
Did the winds knock it down?
Yes.
No kidding.
Yeah, the wind knocked it down. What had happened is when we initially put it up, someone had grabbed the shorter stake for the smaller tents, and it wasn't enough stake to hold it up. So we had to give it a little longer stake there, and that took care of the problem, and we were able to enjoy that tonnage.
Gotcha. Wow.
So, and then hauling the veterans. These gentlemen are something, you realize I had the opportunity, the honor of hauling 3 medals of honor, one of which is from our community. I had the opportunity of hauling 2 Legions of Honor. You know, and these things, and to hear these gentlemen's stories is just absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's even better yet is I had one fellow that asked, I got to go down to the beach to see this. Well, you know, have you ever taken a golf cart out on the beach?
No.
Don't do it.
No.
No, it takes a lot. Anyway,
Well, that's why
it
we have
took
the
about
voters.
4 people. We got this gentleman down there to the bleachers, and guess what? The crowd just split, just like you were running an army tank through there. They just split, were so graciously accepting of this gentleman and making room for them and make sure they could see. I couldn't believe them.
Wow.
So we had a gracious crowd, let alone sometimes not quite so gracious when they couldn't see. That was a problem.
Uh-huh.
But that's something that, you know, you can't take 10,000 or 30,000 people and put them in a 10,000 people park and expect everybody to see everything perfectly.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, my problem was every time I turned around, I saw Mike.
Yeah. That would be
He
a
was
problem.
all over. But anyway, that's my story on D-Day. I'm looking forward very much to next year.
That's great.
Very, very much.
Very
So
good.
I think it's for our community. I think it's just an absolute shot in the arm. It gives, this city has now become known as D-Day community, and I think it's just a wonderful thing.
I agree with you. Thank you so much, Lonnie.
Hey, you guys have a good day.
Yes,
Lonnie,
sir.
looking forward to working with you again.
Yes, Lonnie, it was a pleasure.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, buddy.
Another great one last week. He was just on your show, I believe, and within minutes he was down. I said, "Weren't you just on Pat Williams' show?" He goes, "I'm all over," and he was down there.
He was leaving to go right down.
He was putting up tents. I mean, again, another great volunteer. Many other Lonnie Hutchins are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think his son was also there. He was shuttling reenactors from Lakeshore Primary School down. You know, again, I could sit, if I had the list of volunteers, it'd take me probably 2 hours to read them off. There was so many down there.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hey Pat, it's Lori McLaughlin.
Hey,
Lori.
Lori.
How you doing, kid?
Great, great. Hey, I mean, I cannot tell you, these volunteers, they worked awesome. I mean, this event does not go on without the wonderful volunteers that we have that come down that park. Some people just gave a couple hours. Some people gave the entire week. Everybody was important to this event. Everybody put in their heart and soul, and they do it for their passion, they do it for their city, and they do it for themselves, and they get so much out of it. I heard so many comments of when the volunteers leave the park, they all have stories to tell. Every one of them. They have, you know, when they talk to a veteran, when they talk to a reenactor, somebody in the crowd that came from Los Angeles. I mean, everybody has their stories, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. But nothing happens without those volunteers. And I welcome anyone to join us next year. And we're going to start earlier recruiting volunteers because it's really hard to come in at the last minute and know what's going on there in the park.
Hey,
Because
Lori.
this has become so huge.
Lori, do you think it has probably hit the wall as far as being, can it get bigger? Can we handle it?
You know, we've talked for the last couple of years, we've talked about having, we still don't want it to be an admission fee, but we've talked about tickets. You know, it's free, but you get tickets.
Okay.
So that we can control the amount of people. We haven't figured that out yet. It's just such a hard thing. How do you turn away somebody that came all the way from California or
Right.
St. Louis or something? I mean, you know, it's hard to do, but I think people just kind of police themselves when they come there. I mean, the traffic I heard was amazing. And so I guess people just have to figure it out. But we had probably, you know, one volunteer for every 200 or 300 people, you know.
Yeah.
So that's you know that's hard to handle.
Sure.
And you know, it gets down to like the crowd control down on the beach gets difficult. And I had one email that said, hey, you know what? You know, it's hard to see. It is hard to see. And you know, it's not just a 3 o'clock event though. We've turned it into a 2-day fabulous event. What we have Friday now is what Saturday was.
That's what I heard. Yeah. Yeah. So you are going to be coming back next year then, Lori, right?
With people like Michael and, you know, everybody else that was behind me this year, absolutely. That the support from, you know, the volunteers is amazing. It's wonderful.
Would you actually say then this was probably the biggest since you've taken over?
Yes.
Okay.
This event is tremendous. It's so huge now, but the volunteers do it. Yep.
Well, we certainly appreciate everything you and your volunteers do for this community. It's huge. We got to keep it going, Lori. Thank you so much for all the work you do here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, Lori. Okay, bye-bye.
And
Lori McLaughlin.
And, you know, I mean, again, back to Lori and Bill and Ann Wiley and Jen Pelagi, and I think his name was Jim Snyder, who handles the concessions. And, you know, I think they're the nucleus of this that makes sure that they get the people like myself and all the other volunteers that help. But Doug Batchelor, make sure he gets the drivers to drive, shuttle all the veterans around and on the golf carts and whatnot. I mean, there's just so much.
You know, Mike, I talked to somebody, I can't remember who I talked to the other day, talking to so many people. This is really the first year that they brought in, it was one of the reenactor gals. She said, well, this is one of the first years they've had concession stands right there because people are using it, as you said, an all-day event.
Yeah.
And you have to have food for it.
I don't know what happened in previous years with concessions, but like I said, it looked like a fair. I mean, like the way they had the food set up and everything, it was great. I talked to Paul Compton that had the ice creams. He said there was one point he had a steady line for 3 hours straight serving ice cream. For 3 hours straight.
No kidding.
He was serving ice cream. Yeah.
Wow.
And when Lori said when people are coming from all over, I noticed that, Pat. I noticed at the parking lots, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, California, Alaska, Canada. I mean, I would have to say I'm pretty sure every state was represented here in some way or another, whether it be a reenactor or a spectator.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was someone from every state that came to Conneaut, Ohio this past weekend.
That's simply amazing. That really is simply amazing. So obviously you are going to be jumping back in it next year.
You know, I'll tell you what, it's like I haven't been in, it started with the 4th of July, and helping Marty Landon out, and I look forward to next year, you know, helping him out even more. He wants to grow that event. Again, you know, when we talk about the 4th of July Festival, you're talking about, over the course of the weekend and the fireworks, around 20,000 people over that time frame. And now with D-Day, with 30 to 40,000 people and it growing, I mean, those are your two biggest events that Conneaut sees. I mean, in a month's time, you're talking, what, 60,000 people coming to this community. It's great.
We got to find you a way to come back to Connie and make a living doing this kind of, because you love to promote. You always love to do that.
Well, you know, that would be great, but I enjoy it. And the people you meet, like Lori said, the stories that you take with you, it's one of those things that, you know, someday I'll be telling my grandchildren, you know, and I'll probably be bringing them to this because I'm sure it's still going to be going. I'll probably still be volunteering. But it was a great event. The Lori and Bill and Aunt, they all do a great job on putting this thing together. And you know, one person I should mention, Betsy Bayshore, who kind of handles the reenactment part of it.
Right.
Lori and everybody, they handle, you know, the local volunteers and the logistics and operations. But Betsy makes sure that the reenactor stuff gets done.
Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, I just wanted to know that everyone should know what a great job the bus drivers did. Without them, I don't know what would have happened. They worked hard for days.
Yes.
So kudos to the bus drivers.
Very well said. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, I think we utilized almost every single bus that the school system has, and those bus drivers, I mean, I think they started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and some of them went till I think midnight because they had the party at the USO dance at the Resource Center, and so they were using bus shuttles to shuttle some of the reenactors from there to there. So I mean, a lot of those drivers worked a pretty long day, and you know, to deal with all those people. Although everybody seemed to be pleasant, you know, everybody that was getting on the bus couldn't wait to get down there, and the people that got off the bus would be, oh, what a wonderful event. We can't wait to come next year. We're bringing our friends. So we already know next year there's going to be more people.
It's going to get bigger and bigger. So, Michael, thank you for taking the time to come in. I think that you put a lot of more to the story, because I did not know all the things that were going on.
Right. I mean, people don't see, you know, they come down to the event, they see, wow, what a wonderful event. But when you look behind the scenes and whatever, I'm just a little tiny speck in the whole scope of things. You know, again, like with the caller just called in with the bus drivers. I mean, you know, you're always going to miss, but the bus drivers and the public, I mean, everybody that's involved, and they know who they are. You know, thank you from everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Stay in touch, okay?
Yes, thanks, Pat.
All right, buddy.